Itiae. Excusatis excusationes in peccatis. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Christe eleison. Kyrie eleison. Eleison. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Excelsis Deus Pater omnipotens, Domine Filii unigenite, Iesu Christe, Domine Deus, Agnus Dei, Filius Patris, qui tollis mundi, miserere nobis, qui tollis beata mundi, suscipe deprecationem nostram, qui sedes ex exterra patris, miserere nobis, boni tu solus sanctus, tu solus Dominus, tu solus Altissimus, Iesu Christe, Sancto Spiritu, in gloria Dei, Patris. Amen. Dominus vobiscum. Oremus. Deus qui de gentibus te bona invisibilia preparasti, infunde cordibus nostris tui amoris affectum, ut te in omnibus et super omnia diligentes promissiones tuas, quae omne desiderium superand consequamur, per Dominum nostrum Iesum Christum Filium tuum, qui tecum vivit et regnat in unitatis Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Lectio Epistolae Beati Petri Apostoli. Carissimi, omnes unanimes in oratione astote, comparientes, fraternitatis amatores, misericordes, modesti, humiles, non redentes malum pro malo, nec maledictum pro maledicto, sede contrario benedicentes, quia in hoc vocati estis, ut benedictionem hereditate posside attis, qui enim vult vitam diligere et dies videre bonus, coerciat linguam sum malo, et labia eos anelo quahantur dolum, declinit a malo, et faciat bonum, inquirat pacem et sequatur eam, quia oculi Domini super justos, et auris eos in preces eorum, vultus autem Domini super facientes mala, et quisses qui vobis nociat, si boni emulatores fueritis, sed et si quid patimini propter justitiam beati, timorem autem eorum, ne timueritis, et non conturbemini, Dominum autem Christum sanctificate in cordibus vestris. Dominus vobiscum. Sequentia Sancti Evangelii secundum Matteum. In illo tempore dixit Iesus discipulis suis, nisi abundavit justitia vestra plusquam scribarum et Phariseorum, non intrabitis in regnum celorum. Audistis quia dictum est antiquis, non occides, qui autem occiderit, reus erit judicio. Ego autem dico vobis, quia omnes qui rascitur fratri suo, reus erit judicio. Qui autem dixerit fratri suo raca, reus erit concidio. Qui autem dixerit fatue, reus erit gehennae ignis. Si ergo offers munus tuum ad altare, et ibi recordatus fueris, quia frater tuus habet aliquid adversum tu sete, relinque ibi munus tuum ante altare, et vade prius reconciliare fratri tuo, et nunc veniens operes munus tuum. Our epistle from the first letter of St. Peter. Beloved, be all like-minded in prayer, compassionate, lovers of the brethren, merciful, reserved, humble, not rendering evil for evil or abuse for abuse, but contrariwise blessing. For unto this were you called, that you might inherit a blessing. For he who would love life and see good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil and his lips, that they may speak no deceit. Let him turn away from evil and do good. Let him seek after peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are upon the just, and his ears unto their prayers. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. And who is there to harm you if you are zealous for what is good? But even if you suffer anything for justice' sake, blessed are you. So have no fear of their fear, and do not be troubled, but hallow the Lord Christ in your hearts. And the Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew. At that time, Jesus said to his disciples, unless your justice exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said to the ancients, thou shalt not kill, and that whoever shall murder shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother shall be liable to judgment. And whoever says to his brother, Raca, shall be liable to the Sanhedrin. And whoever says, thou fool, shall be liable to the fire of Gehenna. Therefore, if thou art offering thy gift at the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother has anything against thee, leave thy gift before the altar, and go first to be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. This morning, St. Joseph Knights of Columbus are serving breakfast after this Mass and the 9:30 Mass. And proceeds from this breakfast will go to support our Trail Life troop. We have an embarrassment of riches. We have not only the English Knights of Columbus serving this morning, but the Spanish Knights of Columbus will be selling tacos after the 1:30 and 5:30 p.m. Masses this afternoon. To raise funds for an altar server party. Tomorrow night, Monday, at 6:30 p.m. in the gym here, Father Jeff will be conducting a holy hour. When we open our Bibles to the table of contents, we see that there is a division between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Now, it's tempting to think of the two as somehow simply opposite or contrary to one another. The result is that a person may be tempted to neglect reading the Old Testament. After all, it's old, out of date, passé, isn't it? And simply to read only the New Testament. But that would be a mistake made already in the 2nd century when Marcion of Sinope, lived from about 85 to 160 AD, said that the God of the Old Testament was simply a vengeful God, and so opposite the God of the New Testament that he was not even the same God as the God of the New Testament. Marcion considered himself to be the only true disciple of Jesus, and even there, he cut and pasted the New Testament, reducing it to about 10 letters by St. Paul and a sort of combo gospel of Luke. That was, in his mind, the new versus the old. Now, in some ways, Thomas Jefferson repeated Marcion's cut and paste approach by removing from the New Testament all the supernatural stuff so that it could be read as a useful guide for rational modern man, the Enlightenment paradigm. Jefferson's God was that of deism, a vague sort of mover and shaker that somehow created the world in the beginning and then left it on its own and went out on break forever. A better way to think about the difference between the old and the new is like the difference between version 1.0 and 2.0, where version 2.0 has all the features of 1.0 but adds new features. After all, Jesus said that he had not come to abolish the law, but rather to fulfill it. Sort of like saying his mission was to put the frosting on the cake. And that's the way we do things when, for instance, we trade in our old car for a new one. We expect the new car to do everything the old car did and more. To tell the truth, if the new car only did things that the old car didn't, it wouldn't really be a car at all, would it? Now, one of the problems we have lived through in the church is that of dividing its history and doctrine into new and old in the wrong way. For instance, in terms of what Benedict XVI called a hermeneutic of discontinuity, always say contrasting pre-Vatican II with post-Vatican II, as if the two were mutually exclusive in every respect. I remember when I studied theology in Innsbruck back 1968 to 72, shortly after Vatican II, which lasted from 1962 to 65, the one thing I remember hearing over and over and over was, we used to believe, but now we believe. So we used to believe X, but now we believe Y. And as a result, I was more or less trained to spontaneously think that whatever new came off the press, even contradicting what had been gospel truth just years earlier, was authentic Catholicism. Now, an example of this in our archdiocese was the Cathedral School program of adult education about 40 years ago or so. Courses were being offered at the cathedral in Portland, on various topics. And in the advertising for this post-Vatican II offering was a little item that said for those taking the classes for continuing education, credit, and ministry, and therefore needing to write papers, reports, no books published before, I think it was 1970 or 1980, would be allowed. And I remember asking, tongue-in-cheek, at the first class on Christology, I held up, I said, now, I brought this Bible along. It was published 2,000 years ago. Will it be permitted in this class? Of course, the priest who was teaching the class chuckled and admitted that I did have a point. Okay, so life is crazy, isn't it? So I must admit, however, that for myself, as for many others, the Old Testament and the history of Judaism before and after Christ has gotten short shrift, as if I've been living my whole life with a patch over one eye, something which, even physiologically speaking, severely compromises one's sense of perspective. Sort of living as if Christ had said, out with the old, lock, stock, and barrel, and in with the new. But he didn't. That would, to tell the truth, be throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Instead, as we heard in today's gospel passage, he reminds us to treat causes, not just symptoms, and to tackle the heart of the matter rather than playing games. Thus, he tells us basically what Pope Paul VI taught so eloquently in his 1967 encyclical Populorum Progressio, namely, peace is not simply the cessation of hostilities in an uneasy balance of power, where the parties remain hostile to one another, filled and energized with malevolence rather than benevolence. It may be that for the time being, no one is being killed, but if one or the other, or both, want to harm or kill the other, it's just a matter of time before an opening will occur for lethal overt hostilities to erupt and for treacherous covert operations to come to light. We could consider the current situation in the Middle East. Outwardly, things may have calmed down a bit, even to the point of a ceasefire, But if there is a deeply, even religiously held belief by one party that it is divinely commanded to annihilate the other party, then peace has not really been achieved. Now, in our own personal relationships, what are we to do with other people around us who are just wrong-headed in their thinking, maybe bullheaded and stubborn in the attitude that they take? They got a bee in their bonnet and they just can't seem to get loose from it. What are we to do? Well, first, we can always pray that for everyone, including ourselves, somehow the sequence of events in our lives will open us up to what it is that God really wants us to do and follow that lead. We're supposed to deal with others where they're at, it's said. Of course, if for someone the only thing they understand is the stronger horse, well, maybe, according to their logic and our need to respond, the only thing to do is show them the stronger horse. Well, it's a complicated situation, especially as we get to the macro level, but we can still remember that we have to do what we can, bloom where we're planted at the micro level. Now, when Jesus proposed his frosting on the cake, he was trying to articulate the Old Testament law so that it could be version 2, more effective than version 1, without any loss of validity or force of version 1. So he says, not just, thou shalt not kill, as if anything short of that was fine, but don't even think about going there. Don't let disappointment or irritation fester in the first place. You know, we can allow negative feelings to eat us alive to the point where we destroy each other. This doesn't mean we can't hate the sin. We're still required to uphold 1.0, to call a spade, to say killing is wrong. But our goal should be to eliminate enmity, not the enemy. Or rather, a better way of phrasing that is to turn the enemy into a friend. And Jesus suggests, counterintuitively actually, that we should proceed asymmetrically, in the words of St. Peter in today's epistle, by returning good for evil, or a blessing for a curse. That way we'll heap burning coals on the head of the enemy, that is, embarrass him into changing his dysfunctional behavior. I recently read about a study published in the May 2024 Journal of the American Heart Association. Lately I've been interested in stuff related to heart. Anyway, it revealed that your heart and mind keep score of every angry moment. So what's the uptake of their research? A cool head and a humble heart are the best recipe for the highest level of health care. They noted just spending 8 minutes recalling, thinking about angry feelings that you've had in the past diminishes the ability of your blood vessels to dilate, that is to relax, for up to 40 minutes. And this is all the more amplified for people who have a habit of ruminating over negative experiences, making them more prone to aggression. Well, Jesus said it first. If we don't commit ourselves to a charitable, benevolent outlook, we're putting ourselves under judgment, liable to the fires of Gehenna. That is, we're making life hell for ourselves and others. So, anyway, on a final note, I'd like to encourage everyone to do some serious reading of the Old Testament and the history of Judaism and the genius of the Jewish race, which provides the cake without which we are but the frosting. And to remember what St. Paul said in his letter to the Romans, namely that we Gentile Christians are simply the wild olive shoot grafted into the healthy Jewish grapevine. So don't cut the New Testament off from the Old Testament. Credo in unum Deum. Sibilium omnium et invisibilium et in unum Dominum Iesum Christum Filium Dei unigenitum et ex patre natum ante omnia saecula Deum de Deo, lumen de lumine, Deum verum de Deo vero, genitum non factum, non substantialem Patri, equem ea facta sunt, qui propter nos homines, et propter nostrum salutem, descendit de celis, et incarnatus est de Spiritu Sancto, et Maria Virgine, et hoc factus est, Christus etiam pro nobis, sub Pontio Pilato, passus et sepulturus est, et resurrexit tertia die, secundum Scripturas, et ascendit in caelum, sedet ad dexteram Patris, et iterum curus est cum gloria, judicare vivos et mortuos, cuius regni non erit finis, et in Spiritum Sanctum Dominum, et vivificantem, qui ex Patre Filioque procedit, qui cum Patre et Filio simul adoratur, et conglorificatur, qui locutus est per profetas, et una sanctam catholicam, et apostolic ecclesiam, et baptisma in remissionem peccatorum, et expecto resurrectionem mortuorum, et vita futuris saeculi. Amen. Dominus vobiscum. Oremus. censum aut transuorum, censum istud, veniatur Dominus. Orate fratres et meum vestrum sacrificium ac chasabili fiat apud Deum Patrum omnipotentem. Per omnia saecula saeculorum. Dominus vobiscum. Sursum corda. Gratias agamus Domino Deo nostro. Vere dignum et justum est, ecum et salutare, nos tibi semper ubique gratias agere, Domine Sancte Pater Omnipotens Aeterne Deus, qui communigenito Filio Tuo, et Spiritus Sancto, unus est Deus, unus est Dominus, non in unio singularitate personae, sed in unios Trinitate substantiae, quod enim de tua gloria revelante te credimus, hoc de Filio tuo, hoc de Spiritus Sancto, sine differentia discretionis sentimus, ut in confessione vere sempliceque Deitatis, et in personis proprietas, et in essentia unitas, et in majestate adoretur qualitas, quam laudant angeli atque archangeli, cherubim quoque ac seraphim, qui non cessant clamare quotidie una voce dicentes. Primus Christi, Santa Troica, Pampa, Cari Christi, Adonai, Bibid, Slaughter, Amor Tua Pampa, Leon, Elentissi Nostro, Alexander, Amen. Amaron, Quituarum. E non c'è stanza quanti il ora devozio per cui si può creare ma deve quindi si può creare ma cosa le risque non le reazioni alla mano sua per spesso tanto sue deve vedere oltre sua terra deve vedere un canto veramente prima scuola ossa sempre il nostro Gesù Cristo se le vede ossa sempre risponde per tutto il vostro Andrei Jacobi Jonas, Tom Jacobi Filippi Bartolomeo Matteus Statistiche Civilani Cristonia Cosmo Amano San Quantuam Quram Mary Paliusque Concedas Ura non di vos fractiones tui Mariam Ragli Pianum Christum Domino Nostro Idce Tora Ablazione Wisdom Dopo Placare Recipias Per tua Paceras On nos Atmera Germinazione Nos Ergera Tora Tua Iulias Ergre Genera Ergre Amen Motionem tu Deus Equisemus Benedictam Ascriptam Grata Gracina Novus Corpus Plus Mende Benedictum Nostri Jesu Christi We rise as urgent and we praise the creation of Nobis quoque peccatoribus. Per omnia saecula saeculorum. Oremus. receptus salutaribus moniti, et divini institutione formati audemus dicere. Pater noster, qui es in celis, sanctificetur nomen tuum, adveniat regnum tuum, fiat voluntas tua sicut in cielo et in terra. Panem nostrum quotidianum da nobis hodie, et dimitte nobis debita nostra, sicut et nos dimittimus debitoribus nostris, et ne nos inducas in tentationem, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Pax Domini sit semper vobiscum. Agnus Dei, quid holus peccata mundi, Agnus Dei, quid holus peccata mundi, Agnus Dei, quid holus peccata mundi, Domini non sunt in. Domini non sunt in. Domini non sunt in. Tu vestrum absens testum bis scandus vestris per verbosa vita maternum, indulgentiam obsidius semper ferum vestrum trula vobis omnipotens misericordias Dominus. Et Agnus Dei ecce qui tollit peccata mundi. Dominus vobiscum. Oremus, os celesti Domine, dono satiasti, Praesta quesamus, pro nostros mundemur occultis, et ab hostium liberemur insidiis, per Dominum nostrum Iesum Christum filium tuum, we tecum bibet regnat unitate Spiritus Sancti Deus, per omnia saecula saeculorum. Dominus vobiscum. Ite missa est. Benedicat nos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Dominus vobiscum. Initium Sancti Evangelis secundum Ioannem.
Gloria a tibi, Domine. Deo grazie.